What the hell went wrong with Liverpool? Because at a point, it got really bad. After losing 6 out of 7 games, it seemed like the start of their downfall. Might I remind you, this team stormed the league last season. This season, however, they started off flying, then lost 6 of their last 9 games. Their win against Frankfurt in the UCL looked like a turning point, only for them to keep losing in the league and get knocked out of the Carabao Cup. However, with them winning their last matches versus Villa and Madrid, are they truly back? And has Slot snapped his fingers to magically fix Liverpool's tactical woes? Last season, they truly ran riot, with statement wins like the double over Man City, a 3-0 win at Old Trafford, 5-1 and 6-3 wins over Spurs. They had 14 clean sheets, the most goals scored with 86, and the second fewest conceded with 41. Slot came in and took the baton from Klopp, maintained the same team, only adding the signing of Chiesa to the squad. However, he brought with him a new style of play. He blended Klopp's heavy metal, constant high pressing with his own, a calmer possession play whereby they often saw out games by either keeping the ball, preventing the other team from creating chances, or sitting back in a compact shape to defend their leads, a very rare occurrence under Klopp. Combine this with the fact that Salah went Super Saiyan mode, getting the most goals plus assists of any player in a 38 Premier League game season with 47. Van Dijk marshalled his defence, and the midfield trio of McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai were a stop-start engine that knew how to manage games. They were a pressing engine when they needed to be, kept hold of the ball in their triangles, and were a compact unit when needed. After Liverpool won the league with 4 games to spare, cracks popped up. A 3-1 loss to Chelsea, they blew a 2-0 lead over Arsenal and drew. They lost 3-2 to Brighton and drew with Crystal Palace on the last day. All these cracks showing up could easily have been boiled down to the team not putting in much effort because the title was wrapped up. After all, the last time they won the league during the quarantine season, they lost 4-0 to Man City and 2-1 to Arsenal in the aftermath. Fast forward to the next season, and the Liverpool hierarchy started spending like they just won the lottery. I'm not entirely sure if Klopp had a hidden budget that he wasn't allowed to touch until a certain time, but the spending was insane. Jeremy Frimpong was signed for £29.5 million to replace Alexander-Arnold, Kerkez for £40 million, as Robertson showed to be very error-prone last season. Wirtz joined Liverpool from Bayer Leverkusen in June, in a deal that could rise to a British record £116 million, with add-ons. And on deadline day, they signed Isak for another potential record-breaking deal for £125 million. Liverpool had created a super team, worthy of being called the English Galacticos. Darwin, Nunez and Diaz had left the club, and with the unfortunate passing of Diogo Jota, Liverpool needed to bolster their attack. And oh my days, did they overdo it. At this point, it seemed like they were destined to retain their title and possibly win a treble. Cause honestly, look at this team. On paper, best in England and arguably the best in Europe. They started the season flying. The teams they faced gave them a run for their money, but they came out on top and showed why they're champions. At least, that's how it seemed at the time. Looking back in hindsight, these were the same cracks that popped up in the latter stage of last season. Think of it, they blew a 2-0 lead 3 times, versus Newcastle, Atletico Madrid and Bournemouth. What saved them this time, unlike the end of last season, was individual brilliance. Chiesa and Salah came up clutch versus Bournemouth. Ngumoa scored a last-minute winner versus Newcastle after a brilliant Szoboszlai dummy. By the way, Szoboszlai has been playing makeshift at right-back this season. He scored a late missile of a free kick versus Arsenal. Salah scored a last-minute penalty versus Burnley, and Van Dijk scored a last-minute header versus Atletico Madrid. So, if you look closely, Slot's tactical prowess hasn't really been the foundation on which Liverpool have built on and won their games this season. It's been put out a good starting lineup, rely on individual brilliance, and inshallah, their midfield has been extremely porous. Their press gets beaten all too easily, especially with long balls, rather than piling on the short passes. And for some reason they don't press with the same intensity and efficiency. Their defense isn't much better. Through balls seem to catch them out more often than not, with fast players beating their offside trap. Konate looks unsure of himself whenever he's on the ball. Kerkez has struggled in 1v1 situations. Van Dijk can't seem to organize his defense like he used to. Long throws and set pieces have become their kryptonite, and Arne Slot can't seem to find an answer. Combine this with the fact that Florian Wirtz has been memed. He's been called names like 007 and Ben 10, cause he went up to 7 and 10 games without getting a goal or assist in all competitions. However, he got an assist in the Community Shield. So really and truly, the countdown should have never started. Regardless, the online hate, as well as the drought, can damage any player's confidence. Isak's fortunes hasn't been much better. 8 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist, and several chances missed, like the 1v1s he had versus Palace and Man United, which would have changed Liverpool's fortunes. Yet, he was starting games over Ekitike, who was in better form. Salah hasn't been at his best, failed dribbles and his shooting hasn't been great, yet Slot refused to drop him. Yet, Chiesa, who's had an electric start to the season, being voted Liverpool's Player of the Month for September, hasn't started a single Premier League match. Even though Salah has continued to show that despite bad performances, he still pops up with goals, he needs to show why he's the main man and lead the way out of this mess. At least, where the attack's concerned. And even though he scored against Aston Villa, remember, it was a gift from Martinez, and besides, it could be just another step forward, only to take 4 steps back, like the Frankfurt game was. Kerkez has been error-prone this season, and hasn't been dropped, except being rotated a few times in the UCL. So, a porous midfield, a less organized defense that's conceding more goals than before, their forwards are missing chances, except Hugo Ekitike, but he was dropped for Isak, who wasn't playing better. This means Slot's refusal to rotate players who aren't in form is a factor. This genuinely kills the momentum of non-starters who are playing well yet deserve to start, and former starters who get benched for undeserving players. Their struggles seem to be the result of Slot's failure to adapt his style to the new players and drop players in bad form. Robertson, in his limited appearances, has been better than Kerkez, but Kerkez still starts. The midfield with Wirtz can't seem to press as efficiently as last season, yet Ekitike's played his best football with Wirtz, has scored goals, and has been far better than Isak. Chiesa's been balling but hasn't gotten the nod to start. As mentioned before, long throws and set pieces became their kryptonite, but Arne Slot looks to have found an answer. The club definitely needs a set-piece coach. So with all the selection headache and need for a tactical reform by Slot, definitely, Slot needs to not just tweak, but reform his training to address these tactical woes. He needs to find his best team. And that will definitely leave some players unhappy. But, in the grand scheme of things, that sacrifice is worth getting the team back on track. So, after losing 6 out of their last 9 games, including the recent Carabao Cup embarrassment from Crystal Palace, then regaining form with a win against Aston Villa and a hard-fought battle against Real Madrid, how do you think this will turn out? Are they truly back? And can they compete with Arsenal for the Premier League title and in the Champions League to claim their 7th trophy? Or is this just another serving of false hope? Maybe their match against Man City on Sunday will tell.